Okay, we're going to open the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, October 16th at 6:30. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we don't have any resident public comments that were submitted. I'll read the warrants. Motion to approve payroll warrant number 18-15 in the amount of $165,563.83.
I'll second that.
And second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Motion to approve bill warrant number 18-15 in the amount of $651,311.16.
I'll second that motion.
Have a second? Any further discussion?
Breakdown of what's that, any big numbers in there, Denise?
The largest one is the Whittier quarterly assessment at $238,000. Just under $200,000 is for the light department, $50,000 in Chapter 90 bills, and then about $200,000 for town bills, $40,000 of which was the monthly trash.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Yes.
Lisa? Unanimous. Next up, we have appointments. We have an appointment of Mary Lou Costello, 604 Alyssa Drive, Groveland, to fill the Board of Library Trustees vacancy effective October 16th, 2017. Appointment is made until the next annual election, May 7th, 2018. At that time, there will be an election to fill the position for a full 3-year term. Are you Mary Lou?
I am.
Can you go up to the podium for us, please? So, I see that you had submitted a letter of interest to us. Do you spend a lot of time at the library?
I wouldn't say a lot of time, but I'm a regular patron, so I'm in there sometimes every week, every couple of weeks, just for books. I also play Scrabble 2 Fridays a month on second and fourth Fridays. Belong to the book club.
Okay. As part of this position, part of the role is to work with other committees and boards, kind of collaborate, come to a consensus, and work hand in hand with each other. Is that something that you're committed to doing?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Ed?
No, Mary Lou, I know her from the search committee, for a library director in the past. Certainly comes well qualified, she's well interested, a retired teacher, she's a voice of reason, and I think she'd be a good person on the board of trustees.
Bill, anything?
No, thank you for stepping up to the plate and volunteering, and
Happy to do
hope you have a
so.
lot of fun doing what you're gonna do.
Yes.
Lisa, anything? Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Costello, I have just a couple of questions. I don't know if you've been hearing some of the discussions we've been having here on the board about the library, and exactly the amount of interest they make on a substantial amount of money they hold. How do you feel about trying to move that discussion forward with the board in a way that is a win-win for everybody concerned? I mean, we'd like to, help you help yourselves.
Well, I like things that are win-wins, but I have to say that I'd have to do some research on that particular issue. I don't feel qualified right now to speak to it, so do my best. And I've been involved with negotiations and different negotiations and, in coming to win-win situations, so that does appeal to me.
You think you could be vocal enough in a committee environment to, voice your opinion when you feel something's wrong or something could be better?
Yes,
I wish you all the best.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we appoint Mary Lou Costello to fill a vacancy on the Board of Library Trustees until May 7th, 2018.
We get a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you. Pretty painless, right? All right, moving on to discussion and possible vote. We have Mr. Dempsey to discuss a lot of topics.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. Mike Dempsey for Groveland Conservation. So, this evening I want to talk to you about 3 different conservation restrictions. Before I get into the particulars on each one, we've talked about it before, but I thought it'd be worth it to once again define what a conservation restriction is and why should we care. So a conservation restriction is a legal document and a procedure that adds protection, uses, and restrictions to a land parcel. In most of the cases we're going to talk about tonight are required sometimes because depending upon where the funding came to purchase public lands, those funding may require that a conservation restriction be placed on the property. In addition to that, the conservation restriction can't be held by the owner of the property. So the town can't create a conservation restriction and hold it on itself, even though these are Conservation Commission properties, still the town is not a neutral third party. So you typically have to find a land trust or someone that's in the business of holding conservation restrictions on public lands. So that's pretty much it. And like I say, I'll get into the particulars on each one of why we need to do this. So the first one is Meadow Pond Reservation. So I'm going to just give you a little update on it and what I need you to do in order to complete this one. So Meadow Pond is a property that's located off of Uptack Road, and it's a total of about 84 acres of land. 60 acres of that, which was purchased in 2002, has a conservation restriction on it. When we bought the property, part of the funding came from the state, and under that grant, it required a conservation restriction. Since then, we have purchased an
Mike,
8-acre parcel.
Mike, can I interrupt you for 1 minute?
Sure.
There's nothing in your packet for this, what he's discussing for this item. I can see you guys looking through
Yeah,
it.
we'll
So
look through it.
Meadow Pond, he's just going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want you to get too far because they weren't really paying
Okay.
attention.
Now we know
We're
to
trying
take
to
note.
find the cliff notes so we can follow
Cliff
along.
notes on this
Now
one.
we know
Yeah,
how to
so
take
there's
actual
nothing on
notes.
this one item in your packet.
All right, yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Denise. So, since we purchased that in 2002, in 2007, we bought a 6-acre parcel and, an 8-acre parcel. In 2009, we bought a 6-acre parcel, both with CPA funds. And they both require conservation restrictions on those properties. Since way back in 2007 and 2009, we haven't done that. In addition to that, there's the original 10-acre parcel that was given to the town back in 1997. So what this article does is extend, the state is willing to take and extend the existing conservation restriction on the other 3 parcels. It'll make it easier for us to manage, it'll make it easier for them to manage, and it really isn't gonna change things as far as what's prohibited there. The CR, the current CR that was on those original 60 acres has been looked at again by town council, and he gave the okay on it to add those 3 new parcels to it. And we also voted at our town meeting this year to do it and to extend the CR. So the last step that I need you to do, and that is, it's kind of complicated why we need to do this, but I'll try to get into that briefly. But we need to ask our state legislatures, Representative Lenny Mira and Senator Bruce Tarr, to bring an article, and they have to take a vote to do this. So why do we have to do that? That's strange. Why do we care? Why does the state legislature care about this? Well, there's this thing called Chapter 97. Whenever towns buy land for open space, whether or not they specifically say that, unless it's deemed for something else, it comes under this Chapter 97 protection. And under Chapter 97 protection, anytime you change the purpose of the land, or you do something, sell it, buy it, whatever, you have to get legislative approval after the fact. So because we are taking those 3 parcels that are protected under 97 and we're putting a conservation restriction on them, we have to get the state to approve that. So the town council provided Denise with act language. I think they have that in their packet. Do they have that in their packet?
No, I don't think I put that in there.
Okay, all right,
What
so
was the name of that?
it's the act of approving the, let me see, I've got it here. This is an act authorizing the Department of Fish and Game to acquire a conservation restriction on land in the town of Groveland. So it's pretty straightforward. It just kind of summarizes what I've told you, and that Fish and Game is willing to take this on to add the 3 particular parcels to that CR. So what we need to do is write a letter to our representatives from you folks, include this act that town council provided, and then we're gonna just have to keep following up with them to see when they schedule it and vote on it. They do it all the time, so it's really a matter of getting it on their agenda, and then they put it on there and vote on it. It's never controversial.
How long does that usually take?
Well, I would say 2 or 3 months. You know, it could take a lot less than that, but it just depends. So that's what I need you to do on this one. It's pretty straightforward. So it's pretty much a letter from the board, including the act. I'm sure Denise can work it out with me, and then we'll just have to keep following up on it.
So you're going to help Denise craft that letter?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so as you said, council reviewed the CR. They put together the act, and they could even help us draft a letter if we needed them to. But I think something simple, just asking Rep. Mira and Senator Tarr to, you know, in response to town meeting's support of this additional conservation restriction, which town meeting did approve it in the spring, that we ask that the state take action on it. I think it's something simple.
I noticed on here, we've got the costs. So I'll tell you the costs of each one of these things as we go. So these costs are related to the CR for Meadow Pond. The cost for the title and recording fees is going to be covered by Fish and Game, so we don't have to worry about that. The legal costs for town council, which in this case are minimal because he pretty much just looked at the existing CR and then gave us the act. That's going to come out of the approved, there was an article passed by town meeting in 2015, an extension of a CPA article to pay for conservation restrictions on Meadow Pond. So that will cover any other legal costs associated with this task. So it won't end up costing any additional funds, and it won't, you know, it's all CPA related. So do you have any questions on this one? And I don't know if they need to take, they don't need to probably take a vote on this, Denise.
I mean, I would say probably not where town meeting voted it.
Yeah,
We're just acting upon town meeting. So I can certainly, we can draft the letter, I can send you the letter with the special legislation we're asking them to enact and, for your information. But I don't think a vote is needed in this.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? Yep.
yes.
Just a couple. When was this voted? Was it the last town meeting?
Yes,
It
in
was.
April.
What happens if we don't go for the conservation restriction? If we say we don't want to do it?
Well, those, anytime we are supposed to do this, who knows what the state is gonna do? So the state would be very unhappy with us if we don't put a CR on money that we use CPA funds to buy. So, you know, they're not gonna be happy with us. And, in addition to that, this is minimal amount of change. You know, there's already an existing CR, so we're adding to the CR, so it's pretty straightforward.
And this had to do with the exchange of land up there?
No, not this one.
Not this one?
Yeah, this,
Obviously, if fish and game is involved, so fishing, hunting, and trapping will be allowed on the property?
yes.
It will.
24 acres is going into the CR. It's only gonna change about 2.5 acres because of the limits of firing a gun within 500 feet of a residence. Most of that property is within 500 feet of a residence, so it's really only gonna add 2.5 acres huntable land to the land that's already huntable in Meadow Pond.
Now, will it be, the areas obviously will be posted?
Yes.
Where no hunting is allowed?
Yes, yes. Fishing game is pretty good to work with. They'll even provide us with signs and help us to figure out the areas that need to be posted, so.
Anybody else, any questions on this one?
I just emailed the act, it's only 3 paragraphs, so I just emailed it off to you all, so you have it. But it's actually a very small act.
Okay.
Okay. The next one involves the Wood Street Property Exchange. So this one's a little more complex than the other one. This, if you recall, we talked about this before, and it was approved at town meeting again in April. This involves the developer that wanted to exchange 9,000 square feet of land that's in the existing town forest with 12 acres next to town forest in exchange for that. So tonight, we have the agreement for you to sign from the Steve DeHulu to execute the exchange. It's basically like a purchase and sale, right?
Yes.
This, in addition to that, also requires the same thing as the previous one. It's going to require legislative approval, because in this case, we're taking that 9,000 square foot section of land out of Chapter 97 protection. And secondly, we're putting the entire town forest, 40 acres or so, plus the new 12-acre piece into a CR, into a new conservation restriction. That conservation restriction was also approved in the same article in April. And the Essex County Greenbelt is going to hold that. We don't have it written yet. It hasn't been written yet. And so, but that's okay, as long as we include the purpose of it when we submit the legislative request. So once again, once you sign that agreement, we'll also have to have town council devise the act similar to the previous one, and also, sign the letter requesting the legislator to approve it. And then briefly, the costs on this one, the cost for the title, the survey, the legal work, and recording fees are all going to be paid by Mr. DeHulu on the exchange. And then the only legal costs that we will have to pay will be related to our town council review of the conservation restriction. And that will be covered under that same previous 2015 CPA article. So again, it won't require any other additional town funds besides the CPA article.
And again, so town council has reviewed this agreement. They worked with the DeHulu's attorney. They made some changes, and this is the agreement that council feels that this board is okay to approve.
Do we have to vote on that?
You would have to vote on this, yes.
Do you want us to wait to the end of your do you have a question, Bill?
Yeah, real quick. Go back to the cost part.
Yes,
How much you said it's gonna cost the town something?
No.
very small amount for town council to review the conservation restriction, nothing to do with the land exchange. The land
Oh, okay,
it's
it's
all
so,
being,
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was reading here, and I got a little confused. So that's the CR, not the land exchange.
yes. This one's confusing because it's kind of a complex.
So would you like us to vote on this now, or do you want us to wait till the end of your presentation?
You can vote on it now.
All right, does someone want to make a motion on voting to accept this exchange? No takers?
I'll make a motion that we accept the agreement for exchange of the Massachusetts real estate dated October 2nd between,
I'll second that for discussion.
should I finish?
Yeah, go ahead and finish.
Between DeHulu Homes and the town of Groveland, I believe, correct?
Yes, it is, correct.
Ed seconded. Further discussion?
Yes.
Ed?
Mike, here on page 3, about halfway down, during the course of the agreement, B, in the event the legal expenses of the town are expected to exceed $12,000, that 12,000 just stands out. DeHulu may agree to replenish the funds in excess of such amount as requested by the town. So our legal expenses could go up to 12,000?
I don't think so.
No, I think it's unlikely.
Is that just like an absolute cap?
We needed to put an amount in, and council, we actually went back and forth on the amount a little bit. And so that's why it talks about 8,000 in the first line, and then in the event, 12,000. And then there is an out clause that if they feel they don't want to pay that, and you feel like you don't want to pay anything, either side can walk away from the agreement.
So right now, it stands that we're gonna be possibly paying $8,000.
We will not know. That's what the cost
That's
to
what the
Hulu
Hulu
would
will
be.
be
We
willing
had to
pay.
put some
He's gonna
amount in
assume
there.
that cost.
Yes, correct.
Ed, anything else?
Mike, in your paperwork, do you have a copy of the warrant article that was voted at the town meeting? I'd just like to take a look at that. Thank you. And just quickly, looking at this, the reason I asked you for it, because I didn't remember any of these costs coming up at the town meeting, 8,000 that the purchaser would, or the DeHulu would be responsible for, and I don't remember anything about costs to the town, and I don't see it in this warrant article either.
Did you say that those funds were coming out of a CPA account? Was that part of the warrant article?
Oh, I don't know, I'd have to look at that, but that,
Does that say anything about the CPA paying the council fees on that, Ed?
Well, I don't see that.
I don't think it said anything in that article
About
about the costs.
When it was before us before, I remember, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember it was not gonna cost the town any money.
Yes, but the cost is for the CR, not for the exchange. We're not paying anything for the exchange. The only thing
Okay.
we're paying for is the
Is the
conservation
The
restriction.
existing restriction.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes, and that
Would be paid
was,
no matter what.
and that was an article that was passed in 2015.
Right.
So I didn't reference
So
that.
if the DeHulas were not entered into this deal right now, you'd be paying that anyway.
Yes, right,
Okay,
exactly.
All right.
Well, no, we wouldn't, because don't we, we're exchanging land with them. So the legislature has to vote to let us sell that with a two-thirds majority.
Yes,
They need to agree with that, in order to transfer the land. So if we didn't exchange the land with the Hulas, we already have a conservation restriction on the other property.
no, we don't.
And why did the legislature have to agree to sell it?
Because, well, no, but they would have to agree to let us change it from Chapter 97 protection to be a conservation restriction protection.
How long have we owned that?
Oh, I don't know. The records on it are,
See, this was my point originally.
Yeah.
It was when I asked you,
Okay.
not to put you on the spot.
sure, no, that's all right.
But if we've owned this for a while and we haven't had a conservation restriction on it, why do we need it? And because you said, not to put words in your mouth.
Yep,
Maybe I will. But that, well, the state might get upset, or something to that effect. So I just don't understand why, if we've owned this property for a period of time,
Yeah.
and we don't have a conservation restriction on it, obviously they don't care, or they would.
No.
They'd be looking for it. So I just don't understand why we need to do it.
this one does not have to do with the state. The state doesn't enter into the conservation restriction itself. They don't have anything to do with that. The history of this whole thing goes back quite a while, you know. The water department and conservation came to an agreement that they would put the water tower on the hill. As part of that agreement, we said, that's okay, as long as we set up an easement and we put a conservation restriction on the rest of the property to protect it, so that we don't have other pieces pulled off chunk by chunk. So that was the agreement. It goes back, like I say, probably about 10 years that we came to that agreement with the water department. So the entire part of town forest, except for where the water tower is and the roadway and a few of their other along the way things, it's all spelled out in an easement, won't be as part of the conservation restriction, but the remaining property will be protected. And like I say, that goes back to the agreement that we made with the water department.
When that article was drafted, and I don't remember reading who drafted it, but shouldn't the townspeople have known that this might cost us up to 12,000?
And
No,
it's not
the
costing
Hulu's
the
gonna pay
town
up to
anything.
12. We can determine not to pay anything if we don't want
In
to.
the event the legal expenses of the town are expected to exceed 12,000, so we might be on the hook, we're on the hook for what our town council, and it looks, the way I'm reading this, we could be on the hook for up to 12,000.
Except that I think we could get out of the whole deal if
Yeah.
we were, if the legal costs exceed $8,000, we can just say, we don't want to do this.
But why would we say that if it wasn't gonna cost us any money?
No, I'm saying if it started to cost us money.
Right, right. All I know is when I sat here and we had this discussion, I was adamant on it wasn't gonna cost the
Yes.
town any money, and I will be good with it as long as it doesn't cost the town any money.
Right.
And I was saying, we're going down a slippery road here, if we're gonna start swapping land with builders and what have you, and I'm not saying anything about this one particular
Sure.
person. I just don't like the idea of, getting into these kind of deals because it's gonna cost, legal fees and a lot of money to the town. That's why I didn't wanna get on this. So if it's not gonna cost us, that's what I'm after.
Yeah. No, that's our goal.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that, the
Well, I think the
legal
way Ed's reading it,
things.
I'm with Ed.
Well-
I'm reading it the way Ed's reading it.
Right, so we're talking about, it's not gonna cost us anything, and then we're talking about it might cost us a little bit, and then
Right,
we're
that's what
talking,
that's what-
and now we're talking about, we're hoping it's not gonna cost us
Right,
anything,
that's
so
what's throwing me for a loop.
really what we need to find out is it gonna cost us anything?
Well, the way I read this, it's pretty plain and simple. The Hulu's agreed to pay $5,000 initially, up to $8,000, and if it expected to exceed 12, we're still not paying a dime, then they or us can walk away, we're scot-free. The only cost that the town will have is the legal for the CR, is that
Yes,
correct?
correct.
And what is that cost expected to be? Give me a ballpark figure.
It
Keep it in
might be
Fenway.
$2,000. It's minimal. Because all they're doing is, at that point, they're reviewing the conservation restriction. Essex County Greenbelt, who's gonna write it, is doing that all for gratis. So, it's really a matter of just town council reviewing it. So I would say it's not gonna exceed $2,000.
Right, and those funds were already approved at town meeting in 2015. So that money's sitting in a CPA fund waiting to be dispersed for this purpose.
Okay, and there's no other town funds that I can see in this contract that will be used anywhere.
Right,
So, back to one of Ed's original questions,
sure.
if this wasn't in place before, why do we need it now?
Well, again, it goes back to that agreement between the water department and conservation, that if we allowed them to put a water tower there, that they would agree to work with us to do a conservation restriction. It's taken 10 years to get to this point, unfortunately. It always makes sense to do things closer to when you have these agreements.
Well, right, because the people who made the agreements are around and
Yeah, right.
have some background on it.
Right.
Then you have us who weren't here 10 years
Yeah, right,
ago.
exactly.
And you're
right.
bringing it to us saying, oh, 10 years ago, we agreed on this.
I know, I know.
Any other comments? Bill?
Let me just slip my mind here.
Pass? Lisa? Ed?
Yeah, just one other.
Oh,
I'm back.
Page 5, number 11, closing costs. At closing, the town shall pay the recording and filing fees incurred in connection with the recording of deed of the Webster property and such instruments as are necessary to establish the town's acceptance of such deed. There again, I mean, that's incurring a cost of the town of Groveland.
No, that's not supposed to be that way.
Well, it's in here.
It says at closing,
It's in here.
no, I'm sorry, it says DeHulu shall pay.
No, if you go down to the second paragraph, it says at closing, the town shall pay the recording and filing fees incurred in connection with recording a deed.
Is
But
that
I
an
think
error that
that's a
needs to be
very
adjusted?
nominal fee. Recording and filing fees is like.
$75 is a
Yeah,
recording
it's-
fee.
we're not talking any substantial. And
That's
my
not
my
supposed to
guess
be
is
the-
that there may be a requirement that you do that.
My guess is the same, that as the seller, we must have to pay for our own filing, and they have to pay for theirs as the buyer.
I think, I think this probably should be tabled until the correction in the wording is brought up to speed.
Sure. We can check that, and we're on the agenda again for 2 weeks from tonight to talk about this last one, so that's fine.
Well, we
can-
still have a motion and a second,
Oh, all right.
so,
Yes, correct.
Could table it,
I
right?
One
can,
other
I can
thing.
withdraw my motion.
Bill? You-
Yeah, a quick question. These legal costs, who's going to be monitoring them?
Denise.
I would, when the bill comes in.
All set?
Well, my next question is specifically what language would you like to see, would Selectman Watson like to see changed?
Who's,
I think he's
Town.
referring to number 11, the second paragraph that begins with "at closing, the town shall pay."
Right.
There's an A, B, C, and D there. If that could be clarified, I think it has to do with recording and filing fees, the costs and expenses of any commitment and title insurance policies, fees and expenses of town attorneys, and any other costs and expenses incurred by the town with regard to the purchase. It is a little bit open-ended right there, and that could be more concrete.
If I may, I will certainly check on that. What I'm assuming is, though, that's the piece that we're getting from them. So it's our, it then becomes our property. That really is not DeHulu's property at that point. They're giving that to us, in fact, and we would have to file.
Oh, I see.
So my guess is that's, because they refer to the town property in the first half, which DeHulu's paying, what they're getting from us. We in turn would have to file the piece that they're giving to us as part of the swap, but I can confirm that with council.
so Lisa said that she'd withdraw her motion. Is that good enough for now? And then we can table it until that gets cleaned up? Is that all right with everybody? Bill?
Sure, I'm in no rush. It's waited this long, right?
Lisa?
Yeah.
Motion to
Ed?
table.
Yep. Bill, you okay with that? Okay.
So Ed just made a motion to table.
Okay, get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous? Okay,
Okay, so now we'll move on to the last one. This is
Enormous.
related to the Center Street Greenway conservation restriction. I was last before you back in May of 2016 regarding this. At that time, we had a conservation restriction that had gone through review by everybody, but you wanted to have town council look at it once more before we were done. So Denise sent that off to town council, and he made a couple of small changes to it, and then it had to go back to Mass Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. Unfortunately, their reviewer retired, and so it's taken over a year to get it back from them, finally. So finally, just recently, it came back in September, all ready to go. So this is related to the, if you look at those maps that you have, there's two parcels. The Center Street Greenway consists of the former busing property, which is 61 acres, which is the front part of 150 Center Street. That parcel is under your control. And then the back parcels, the former Angelini property, which is a total of 54.65 acres, and the former Mattingly property, which is 46.37 acres. Those parcels are, again, were purchased with CPA money and also with a grant from the National Park Service, require the conservation restriction. So that is why we're doing this. Essex County Greenbelt, as I say, was willing to take this on, and they helped us back going, this goes back to, started in June of 2013. So sometimes even when you start it, right after you make an agreement, it takes a while to get it done. I believe that this document, they got a copy of the final document. This document is a great CR because it allows us something that is very difficult to work into a situation like this, is that most of those properties are on our aquifer, and the water department is interested in putting perhaps 2 wells sometime in the future, might be another 10 years, might be 20 years, to tap into the aquifer as Groveland grows. So they wanted the ability to do that. The other complicating factor is that they don't know where those wells would go. So this conservation restriction allows the water department to basically be able, once they decide that they need another well, to be able to find the best place to put the well, to put the well in, and the infrastructure required to support the well anywhere within those 2 former Mattingly, former Angelini properties. That the other complicating factor is turtle habitat. All of this is within, just about, almost all of it is within turtle habitat. So you get this conflict between Mass DEP, who says, yeah, we want you to be able to put a well in, and the water department wanting to go along with that, versus the natural heritage people who are saying, wait a minute, be careful, because this is all turtle habitat. So that was why the review process took so long on it, and that it's taken over 4 years to get this in place. So now that it's done, we need to do pretty much the same step as the other one. No, I'll correct that. We don't need to go to the legislature on this one. Why don't we need to go to the legislature on this one? Because this property, when we purchased it, referenced a CR, so there's no change in it. Even though it's technically under Chapter 97 protection, there's no change in that. So we don't have to get, thankfully, we don't have to get legislative approval on this. All we have to do on this one is you have to sign it. So 2 weeks from today, Chris LaPointe from Essex County Greenbelt is going to come. You can ask further questions that I may not be able to answer about the CR, and then hopefully you'll agree and sign it, and we'll be all done with this 4.5-year process.
Anybody have any questions for Mike? Bill?
Yes, yeah, I did, but
Okay.
I just had the map, but I can't find it now, naturally.
This is the,
This is basically, no, that's not fine either. I think it was attachment 1, I got it. Attachment 1,
Yes.
that's the solar field on
This-
the bottom.
Let me see which one you're looking
This is the solar field?
at. Yes.
And on this one here, which is circled area here?
That's, I think those are just talking about the well easement. It could go anywhere, but that's why it's kind of clouded in, because it could go anywhere on the property. They talk about these 2 easements in the CR.
Thank you. That answered my question.
Bill Dunn?
no, this is strictly the, this is the land we're talking about, is the Angelini and the Mattingly property.
Yes.
Nothing to do with the Bussin property.
No, exactly.
All set.
Right.
Lisa? Yep.
Just to follow up, Mike, in this, I'll just refer to the page, page 5, number 6. No snowmobiles, bicycles, why aren't bicycles allowed in it? Wait, now, it's supposed to be like, what, passive recreation?
Yep.
And this is under prohibited,
What is
harm does
passive
bicycle-
what is passive recreation?
it,
As defined? Walking, is that it?
Well, no, what it doesn't include is, like, you couldn't put a baseball field there, you couldn't put a basketball or tennis court, you couldn't have motorbikes on it.
It's basically for walking.
Yeah, walking, hiking,
Well, it lists horseback riding
fishing, those
too,
kind of things you can do.
and
No.
cross-country skiing.
I don't,
So the biking, I think it goes back to the definition between motorbiking and motorized vehicles versus biking. And I think that we should ask Chris that when he comes next week, because I think he can give a better explanation of it than I can.
Right now, it excludes all biking.
Yes, biking, right. Because I know we had this question before. I think one of you asked the same question.
So you can't mountain bike in there.
Not according to what it says.
Is that because biking falls under all biking, which includes like
I
motorcycles and
guess
trikes?
so. That's why I want him to answer it, because I'd have to look at the conservation restriction on Meadow Pond, because I thought that biking, you could take a mountain bike in there, but maybe not.
just another question.
Sure.
I see that fishing is permitted. here,
Yes.
But I don't see that hunting and trapping is prohibited. So there, it would be allowed. If it's not prohibited, it would be allowed?
They don't, that would come under, it wouldn't be in the CR in this case, because it's not held, specifically, Fish and Wildlife, when they buy a property, they're buying it, or they're holding a CR on it, they're doing that so that it's huntable land. Typically, a CR doesn't say whether or not land is huntable or not. In this case, it would come under whatever the Conservation Commission decided to do with it.
I think it's permitted, though, because it says, "and other non-motorized outdoor recreational activities that do not materially alter the landscape." So I think hunting would be included in that.
I don't know, but that's another question we can ask Chris. I'll make sure I pass these on to him so he comes prepared to answer these two questions.
So I think we should table this one until
Yeah,
we get more information.
yeah,
So you're
no,
not voting on this tonight?
I just wanted to give you an update on it so that we'd
No,
be
I just got
ready.
I just got one more. I
Sure.
hate to keep firing away.
No,
here.
that's okay.
Well, as long as you don't mind. Under prohibited,
Yes,
under A, and constructing, placing, or allowing temporary permanent building, and I can understand that. But sign, and then under, I think it's an exception, number 5, under reserve rights, prohibited activities and use, and it allows signs for certain purposes. But, so, the question, and you probably can't answer, it, maybe,
Chris LaPointe.
maybe he can answer, why signs are prohibited, but yet then here in another section, they're allowed. Doesn't make much sense.
Yeah,
And that's all I got.
okay.
Bill, you said you're all set, right? Lisa?
I'll say.
Bill and Neil?
Turtles versus Wells, Mike? Was that what it came down to?
They can live with each other.
They determined they can cohabitate,
Yes,
so there won't be a fight later on down the road?
no, because of this document. Because if you didn't have this document, I guarantee you there would be a fight.
Oh, I
Turtles
bet my
agree.
bottom dollar there'd be a fight.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking now
Yes.
before I spend a nickel.
No, that's why, believe me, a long time it took just to get that part straightened out with the water department and the well and DEP's rules, all had to be met about establishing a well site. All of that had to get put in here and make sure it was allowable to do that, so, yes.
Good enough.
Okay.
So, just briefly, the costs, again, for this one, all of the costs are being covered by the CPA purchase article on these. So, there won't be any other additional fees on this one for the regular town budget.
Okay.
Mike, I'd just like to thank you for supplying this information so we could look it over, because there is a lot here, but.
Yes.
It really is a help when we can get that before the meeting. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I'd like to thank you all for bearing with me, because this is not the most interesting topic to talk about.
Oh,
as
come
far
on,
as-
this is riveting.
It's, no, it's
Riveting.
tricky, it's
So you're
tricky.
back in 2 weeks, is that
Yes,
the
2 weeks we'll
plan?
be back.
So we can look forward to another exhilarating.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Vibrating conversation, all right.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. All right. We are moving on to acknowledge receipt of and review open meeting law complaint of Kathleen Prunier, received October 6, 2017, and vote to resolve. So I have a response from KP Law. And they wanted me to read several things. So there are several points that they asked me to go over. Complaint must be filed within 30 days from the violation, or the date on which the complainant became aware of the violation, in this case, September 6th or 7th, 2017. Open meeting law does not address the substantive comment of discussion, so characterizations made by complaint do not implicate open meeting law. Finance director and treasury tax collections clerk are not subject to open meeting law because they are not members of the public body, Board of Selectmen. Thus, emails from them to the board do not implicate open meeting law issues. Exchange between finance director and one board member do not implicate open meeting law issues because it is not among a quorum, and finance director is not a member of the board. Possible that emails from one board member to chair and finance director might constitute a serial deliberation where chair was cognizant of the opinions of a quorum of members, but none of the selectmen hit reply all, and no one emailed contained a quorum of members. If perceived as a serial deliberation, the board cured any potential violation by its vote to appoint a temporary town clerk at its April 24th, 2017 meeting. To further cure any perceived violation, the board will attach emails to April 24th, 2017 meeting minutes, and will attach April 24th meeting minutes and emails to issue to October 16th, 2017 meeting minutes. And now we have another document. The Board of Selectmen acknowledge receipt of October 5th, 2017 complaint from Ms. Kathleen Prunier alleging a violation of open meeting law occurring between April 19th and April 21st, 2017. Ms. Prunier indicates that she became aware of the emails on September 6th or 7th, 2017, in connection with review of emails she received pursuant to a public records request. Assuming for the sake of this response only, and reserving all rights with respect thereto, the board votes to resolve the same as follows. That 4 of the 15 emails at issue in the complaint do not implicate the open meeting law because they were sent by the finance director or the treasury tax collections clerk, who are not subject to the open meeting law. That said, emails constituted distribution by non-members of reports that may be discussed at a meeting wherein no opinion of any members was expressed. That other 5 of the 15 emails at issue involves exchange between the finance director and one board member and thus do not implicate open meeting law issues because they are not among a quorum of the board. That the remaining 6 of the 15 emails were sent between less than a quorum of the board and thus do not implicate the open meeting law in and of themselves. Although the board denies any violation of open meeting law to the extent of any of the remaining 6 emails are perceived as serial deliberation, the board takes the position that by appointing a temporary town clerk at its April 24th, 2017 meeting, it cured any perceived violation. To further cure any perceived violation, the board votes to take the following additional actions: to attach the emails at issue in the complaint to the minutes of the board's April 24th, 2017 meeting, and to attach the meeting minutes of the April 24th, 2017 meeting, as well as the emails that issue to the minutes of the board's October 16th, 2017 meeting. For all of these reasons, the complaint is denied in its entirety, and town council is directed to prepare a response to the complaint consistent with this vote. So, once again, we have called town council about another open meeting law complaint, and once again, we find that we have done nothing wrong. What we have done is wasted more time, and definitely wasted more of the taxpayers' money. Town council has stated that there is no violation, and therefore, we will not waste any time with a discussion. Would someone please move the motion?
I'll make a motion to move the motion.
We get a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Abstain.
So moved.
I'm just going to recap just for the woman who does the minutes in
Yep.
case she couldn't see that. So Bill O'Neill, Bill Dunn, and Chairman Wood voted affirmative. Lisa, you voted against, and Ed, you abstained. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Now we have public comment discussion. Ed, this is your topic?
Yes, I
There's a
had,
copy for Lisa if she wanted.
I had some people reach
There's
out
probably
to me
a copy for
about
Lisa,
bringing
if she
back the
wanted.
public comment again. I know it was started a couple of years ago. I don't remember who requested that. Bill, you were chairman, and do you remember who requested that?
I thought
think
it might have been Joe
I
DeMore.
think it was
I
Joe.
I didn't remember that. But this is the voice of the people, and maybe with some parameters, we could bring that back. The public wants to be informed, they have questions. It may be just as simple as, they don't know where to turn, so they come in here before the selectmen, and we can give them some proper direction. And I think that just is good government. And I know when we started it, had several people reach out and say, gee whiz, this is great, this is something we were never able to do before. So I think the people liked it. Maybe we could set some parameters, time limits or what have you, and have them come in, maybe limit it to so many in a week. Maybe if you didn't put it at the beginning of the meeting, put it at the end of the meeting. Just take a look at it. And I'd like to look into it, see if we can bring it back.
Well, I think what you're suggesting is what we already have in place. We have public resident comments at the beginning, or wherever we want to put it during the meeting. There are some parameters around it. They have to have 48 hours notice, and they have to submit what they want to talk about.
Yeah, I'd like that part, I'd like, instead of having to make notification 48 hours in advance, I think that they ought to be able to come in, just walk into the meeting and speak their piece. And they are the voters, and they should have a voice.
I would agree, they should have a voice, and if it's something that's that important, my opinion is that they would be able to submit something 48 hours ahead of time instead of having a simple open mic to, basically bash whoever they want to bash. I think that's why we put restrictions on it, because that was happening. Anybody else, any comments? Yes, Lisa?
I agree with Ed. I mean, I think that if someone behaves inappropriately as the chair, you have the right to shut them down. So if somebody is coming in and behaving inappropriately, as the chair, you can choose to not allow that person to continue to speak. And I do think that the 48-hour requirement and putting the comments in writing creates an encumbrance for people that would like to have, free speech in this forum.
Yeah, I think people have plenty of free speech in this forum, and if it's not worth the person's time and energy to put in writing, give us 48 hours' notice, I don't think it's worth the time and energy of this board to discuss what their possible issue is. So I'd like to make a motion that we leave the policy exactly like it is.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? No second? No second.
Can I have discussion?
Yeah, well, we've got a no second on his, so that dies. Are you done?
I didn't have a chance.
No, I'm moving on to you now.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just didn't have a chance to discuss it. We had this policy where people could come in, they could come into the forum, and they could talk.
Mhm.
What happened is it was getting out of control. We, as the select people on this board, did not, and we're not able to do our due diligence on the subject. That's why it got changed to having the 48 hours notice and having them let us know ahead of time, so we could have our due diligence, because we were coming in, and I think Selectman, I won't say our ex-Selectman, was here one night, and he didn't have a chance to do his due diligence on the situation that was brought before him. He wasn't able to bring his paperwork in or do any kind of,
Homework.
Research.
homework on what was going on, and that's why it could change back this way. So I personally would like to leave it the way it is, only because we've tried it the other way and it didn't work. And I respect what Selectman Watson wants to do, but like I said, you can't come in and have a topic and have conversation if you don't know what you're talking about. So,
Yes.
Hi, I'd just like to make a comment.
Yep, name and address,
Jan
please.
Dempsey at 33 Uptack Road in Groveland. I'm one of the people that brought this up during Selectman Watson's open hours here at the town hall, because personally, I really feel it's an important part of our town democracy to have this in place. And I do think that it can be done successfully. It's done in many, many towns successfully with some parameters. And, I really miss having it here, because to me, it's kind of like, there's calling it public comment, and yet you have to do 48 hours. It's just the same thing as being on the agenda. There's no difference. It should just be an agenda item that way. But I just want to give an example of just how I understand what you just said about things getting out of control, and I certainly don't think that that is at all the purpose for this. This is a purpose of people being able to come in, maybe have a 3-minute limit to inform the Board of Selectmen of something that maybe happened within 48 hours, and also to inform the town of something. There doesn't have to be any time for you to deliberate or give answers or anything like that. And I'll just give you a really quick example. For the town of Linfield, they have parameters for their public comment, and they feel it's a time that town residents can bring matters before the Board of Selectmen that are not on the official agenda. Comments must be short and to the point. Plan on being allowed up to 3 minutes per person to speak. Total time, 15 minutes, can be adjusted by the chair based on the meeting's formal agenda content, et cetera, et cetera. All remarks must be respectful and courteous, free of personal attacks. Inappropriate language will not be tolerated. And it goes on with a few other parameters. And if you go online, you can look at a lot of different towns, and they have very similar parameters. So I would just encourage the board to consider bringing this back, because I do think that we don't want our town, the democracy, to be a spectator sport. We want people to be involved. And I really think a lot of it is beneficial to you as getting information from the public. It is not necessarily people wanting to come up here and just be mean. We want to be able to have the forum to let you know things if it's important. So thank you for your time.
Yep. I would like to comment. As long as I've been chair, I have not denied anybody who requested to be placed on the resident comments. I have not, denied anyone the option to do that. Again, what Bill is talking about, we've had in the past where people would just come up, and there weren't any parameters in place, granted, but they would just come up, and some of them were disparaging remarks, and some of them we were ill-prepared for.
But this is kind of the opportunity to maybe think about parameters that
Right.
that would work well for your board.
Right.
And giving the townspeople an opportunity again to try it out.
Yeah, I mean, From my position right now, I would say I don't want to change anything, but I'm open to, hearing other people talk about it and what their concerns are. Like I said, I have not heard of anyone complaining that they haven't been placed on resident comments. I think there's been 2 since I've been chair. Mike was one of them.
That's what the point I'm trying to make is, it's cumbersome now, if you wanna come and just let you people know something, you have to write it all up 48 hours ahead of time. I mean, something might happen over the weekend that you feel you should be aware of, and you can't do it. That's all.
Would you be willing to come up with some parameters, some ideas, and maybe come back to us with some possible ideas of having this with some, or maybe submit it to the chair or whatever, and maybe come up with some ideas? I mean, that's just my thought. I mean, I wouldn't shut something down, but I know for a fact we've had 3 minutes before, and people have been up there, and as a chair, I used to ask them to stop, and, I mean, I don't have to slam a hammer and be rude to them, but you ask them, and they go on and on and on, and sometimes it's hard to get them, when they're passionate about something, they
Right.
wanna go, you know?
Obviously, there has to be respect
So-
for
Well,
the
and
parameters, I totally
the parameters, yes, and again, it goes back to, I like to be prepared for things, right? I like to understand what I'm supposed to know, what I'm gonna be talking about, what questions I might have, and to have someone come up and just kind of make a presentation for 3 minutes, that's fine, but that never happens. What happens is, someone comes up, they have a complaint, they have a concern, whatever it is, and they're expecting us to act right then and there.
But I think that's one of the parameters. You
Well-
should not be expected to make decisions at that point, is to take it under advisement.
Right, that would
And I
be,
think that
that
could
would
be
be
part of the
parameter
policy.
number 1.
Yeah, that could be
And
part
I
of the
think
policy.
that's pretty well understood in all the ones that I've looked at. And I work for the towns of Hamilton and Wenham, and they both have this time at the very beginning. And it's understood that the board doesn't have to make a decision at that time. It's understood the board doesn't have to make a decision at that time. They just take it under advisement.
Well, I think I think, the policy could be that there won't be a decision. So this forum is, that person's opportunity to share something with the understanding that the board is not going to respond in that moment. And if there is to be a response, it will be taken under advisement and placed on the agenda at a later date.
Exactly, because you really can't make a decision anyway, because it's not on your agenda.
Right.
Thank you for taking the time to think about it.
Yeah, no problem. So we have a motion and a second. What was the original motion?
I don't
Was
have
there
a
a mo-
motion.
no?
No, there's no
So
motion.
I would make a
That falls
motion.
Well, can I just comment a little further?
Yeah.
Wouldn't the 48 hours, getting back to Chairman Mike's, Wood's point, allow 5 of us to look at the issue at hand and maybe have a solution at the time, so, just in the sake of expediency, so we're not wasting time and wasting energy. And if it would happen over the weekend, if it was that such of an issue, it would almost constitute an emergency, we'd probably be aware of it, and it would probably be added in some form or manner. It would have to be pretty, important for it to come up over within 48 hours. I mean, wouldn't you think? So I don't think that it's very restrictive at all. Anybody can make anything, can write anything they want and ask, like Chairman Wood said, I don't think anybody's ever been denied, but it does turn it, I've never seen anybody get to the podium and say, you guys are doing such a great job, right? It's not complimentary. Usually it's aggressive. Usually it's counterproductive, and I have a little rule when coaching sports. I know that sometimes the parents are going to get mad at me. I say, listen, it's one simple rule. You can't talk to me about a problem you have in the game for 24 hours. Reason being, in 24 hours, you may rethink it. You may think, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I didn't see something. Maybe my views have changed. And a lot of times, they do. So, given a chance to put something down in writing and think about it also gives the citizen a chance to think about, does he really mean what he says? Does he really, or her, feel the same way after writing it down and looking at it for 24 to 48 hours? It may change.
All set, Bill?
Yeah.
Yep.
I guess I just think it's kind of sad to think that we're just assuming that anybody who wanted to bring something to the board is going to bring a terrible negative comment. You know, I mean, I know I've come up here before a meeting just to let you know something about the library with the state or whatever, and, you know, just important information. So I just think it's kind of interesting that you've only had one or two people go through this whole process since the public comment time's been taken away. So I would just urge you to think about just the participatory type of nature that maybe would be beneficial for the selectmen's meeting, and, you know, it's your call, but I just think that it's kind of a more open forum. I think the public would appreciate that.
But how restrictive is it to pick up a pen and write a short little letter?
What if you can't write?
You type.
What if you can't type because you're illiterate?
Can we make some kind of exceptions for those that can neither read, write, talk, see, that might be able to communicate electronically, somewhat like Stephen Hawkins or something, that we could get in some kind of written form?
I'm sure we could make arrangements.
I'm sure it's
if that was the case.
2017. It's
I would like to make a motion that we permit Ms. Dempsey to draft something as a proposal and that we review it as a board.
I'll second that. It certainly sounds reasonable.
You have a second? Further discussion?
Yeah.
Bill?
If we can just make a friendly amendment to that and leave the public comment alone until that, such time that Mrs. Dempsey comes back before us.
Well, nothing will change,
Yeah.
because we're not voting on that. But what the motion is basically saying that for us to gather more information on what kind of parameters that she would like to, I guess, present to us, if that's all right? Which I'm assuming is going to be what you just read.
Well, I can go through and do more research.
Sure.
And I can just email you if you want, like,
Yeah, that's fine.
you know, different things, and then you folks can discuss.
Actually, you know what, put it to Denise, and then she'll send it out to us. That'd be better.
If I may just make one comment. So, some communities still have like a sign-in sheet in the back of the room, so anyone wishing to speak under public comment would still have to sign in their name and a topic. It still is up to the chair to allow someone to speak or not. So if you had people and you saw the topic and weren't keen on it, or for whatever reason, you could still not allow them. Just because they're here and sign in doesn't mean they have a right to speak. It's still your meeting as the chair, so.
So include that.
If you do change parameters, you could have a sign-in sheet, you can review it and decide at that point who, you know, if more than 5 people sign up, you may only select 5 out of the list, or however it works. But you're still the chairman to decide who speaks at a meeting.
Right, a lot of towns do have that, and also, the chair has the perfect right to, you know, depending on how big of an agenda that you have, you can have 5 minutes for public comment, 10 minutes, you know what I mean? You have the right to cut it short. It just gives that opportunity. Towns do it all different ways, but a lot of them really do devote a little bit of their meeting for that purpose.
To go back to your point, it is a good point, Denise, but I've sat here and I've had people get mad because they're shut off. They get shut off because for whatever reason, they can't get in that night or whatever, or the chairman shut it off, or for whatever reason, because you might, me as a chairman, say, well, this is gonna be a controversial subject, I don't think I wanna hear it tonight. They get mad, whatever. I mean, hey, you gotta suck it up as a chairman, whatever, but that's the other part of it, so, just a thought, you know, so.
Bill, any further discussion?
I'm thinking if the chairman can shut down any speech, what's free about it? The chairman's able to shut down anybody they want. What's free about it?
Right, well, it's still, it's
There is
the
no free.
chairman's meeting, so, right, he decides who, even amongst board members, it's his call who speaks at all. So technically, it's not free speech in this room, it's at the approval of the chairman. So,
Ed, do you have anything else?
No.
All right, so we have a second, we have further discussion. One more time, the motion.
The motion is that we permit Ms. Dempsey to provide the board with some policies around public comment at open meetings for us to review and consider.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Did you vote?
Was that a yes from you?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I consider anything.
okay.
So just again, just email Denise, and then she'll
Fine.
disseminate it against, for all of us. Okay. Next up, we have vote to the board. We have the minutes from September 5th, 2017. Anybody want to make a motion on that?
So if I just may, so I included in the copy the amendments that Lisa requested at the last meeting. I highlighted those, so you're aware.
Yep.
So if you are voting, you would need to vote with the amendments if that's how you choose to proceed.
Anybody want to make a motion to vote on the minutes for September 5th, 2017 with the amendments?
I would make that motion.
Can I
That
get a
we,
second?
oops, sorry.
Did-
Did
is
you
that
want me to
fine?
use the
No,
language?
that's fine. That's-
Okay.
All right, so we get a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. We have the minutes from September 18th, 2017. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of September 18th.
You get a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. We have the approval of adding 2 additional streetlights to Center Street.
So you'll see the email included from the general manager, Kevin Snow. He installed the light that you all approved at the last meeting at Center and Webster. You asked if he could go out and look at additional locations. As you'll see, he said there's a series of 2 turns that have 0 lighting, and if you're looking for recommendations, that's where he would recommend adding them. He has the lights in stock and can install if you all approve them.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll
Make
make
a
a
motion.
motion to add the 2 additional lights, street lights, on Center Street.
You get a second?
Second.
Second, look, I'd like to, also, I got a complaint for Uptack Road at Berrywood Lane. Maybe they could take a look at that also.
Yes, so I spoke to
corner.
someone on that. I asked them to put their request in writing, and they haven't provided it. I spoke to someone who was complaining about that area.
Okay, oh,
So really, you have to hold, you should have, like we did with the last request, have the people in, have them discuss their request, and then you would approve it. I did speak on that, but no one has put that in
Yeah,
writing.
if you can
yet.
ask them to submit that, Ed, we
Yeah,
try
I
to
can
get
do
that on the
yeah, I
agenda.
can do that.
Any further discussion? Bill?
Can we make it easier on the taxpayer and just have, ask the light department to take a ride up that road and see if that, save everybody a little time and trouble?
Seems, I mean, that's their job, so they should be able to decide.
But it's your bill.
I know,
So we
know.
pay for it.
but it's
Um,
$45.
It's
and goes to
$42
$26 over.
Well, But
versus-
just keep in mind, if we start putting them up and then everyone else calls, so I think that's why there was a process in place to have lights put up, just because we don't want everyone saying, I need a street light, and approving every street light that comes before you.
Well,
So
that's-
just keep that in mind. I don't know what else is around that someone may say it's really dark on my corner, and
Yeah, but I would say that, we'd have to go along with the light company's recommendation. If they say it's not needed, then it's not needed. But if they come around at that corner and say, like they did with these 2, and say, this is, could be a potential problem, dangerous situation, at $42, what's a life worth?
Does that come up with the enterprise fund, the paying of that bill, or it's the town?
it's the general fund.
Can we just, through the chair, can we just have the light department go out and look at that?
That's up to you all.
I'm not talking about Center Street, I'm talking about what Ed just talked about.
The additional street as they
Yeah,
come
can
up?
they just go and then get back to us, let us know if it's worth doing or if it's needed? We're not the light people, they are, so I agree with Bill saying, I think we should let them go look at it. And
I don't think anybody up here is gonna deny safety. So, I mean, where it's a low cost, I mean, I don't care. If someone wants to email me and ask me a question, I'll go out and look at any light they want me to, but I think it's a safety issue, so.
Yeah, but just let's not get ridiculous and put one on every street,
No, we don't need the sun to
On
shine
every-
in
on-
Groveland at
right.
midnight,
That
Right,
way
but
there-
I would just caution then if someone says, well, my corner's worse than Uptack and Berrywood, and
So that's
I
why the light
just,
department should be involved.
that's fine.
But my only concern is that it doesn't necessarily come out of the light department's budget. It's coming out of the general fund and not the enterprise fund. So I agree with Denise that we have to be somewhat cautious, that we want to definitely keep safety in mind. But if all of a sudden we have, 200 requests for lights at $45 each, then that's certainly going to have an impact on our budget.
Right, so I think if you still have the process that someone requested in writing, you can look at it, we can have them give an opinion, at least there's a process in place, instead of just having the light department survey town and look and see where it might be.
Well, no, I don't
'Cause they
think
might
Bill's
want as
saying that. I
many
think,
lights
I think
as-
Bill's saying have the light department look at it and then recommend, yes, it needs one, no, it doesn't need
Right.
one, then have the
That's what I'm
board
saying,
vote
too.
on it. Not just unilaterally
But
approve
you
it.
know what?
But they're making money off it, so they may
Yeah.
say, yes, it's needed.
It's like
As much as
lawyers.
as much as I like the light department, they may say,
The
hey,
discussion
it's
kind
really
of triggered
needed.
that idea that, you know, it's self-serving to them to say every spot needs a light.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, I
maybe
just think
that's
there
not
should be a
such good
process that
idea.
At
just
what
stick
point in time
with
we're
as
gonna say
far
no to a streetlight then? All right? So once this starts, it's gonna start.
Well, what's the
Well-
harm in letting them look at it and get their recommendation? If that's on a, Mike, you're in that area, aren't you? That's right on that corner by the power lines. And there's no lights up there anyway, at all.
So then I don't know if this is the same request that I had for Uptack. So I've had another request for Uptack. It's near a school bus stop. And I asked them to put that in writing. So
Yeah.
it might be a
So
different, it might be a different intersection altogether, I don't know.
I can't answer that, I don't
Will
know.
we be forced to divvy up the town 5 ways and go around marking it up at where we might need a light?
So the money.
Comes
that
out
the
of our
light-
general fund budget.
So the light department turns these lights on, and then we have to pay,
They bill us for the
they
usage.
bill us for the use.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we
Seriously.
pay approximately $38,000.
Yeah,
Taxpayers, hear this one out,
So we
please.
pay approximately
Seriously. So that's why
$38,000 right now.
there's tons of money in
Well,
in the light
I
department.
won't go down that road, but
tons of money in the light department.
Rabbit hole.
we
Because we're
pay,
paying them to use the
So,
lights to go up
right,
and down
but-
our streets.
so keep in mind, we pay
Keep our
about,
people safe. Seriously.
Keep going.
Seriously.
we pay about $38,000 a year for streetlights. Now, that
crazy.
cost will go down when we get into this LED program with
Yeah.
when swapping out the lights. But we will not realize those savings for a few years. But it costs us roughly $40,000 a year in streetlights. So every time you add a light, yes, it's minimal per light, but if we start adding them because someone says, oh, it's dark here, that will add up, and we will have to find that money somewhere.
yeah, I think we should
I think
find somewhere
safety should be the
between
bottom.
Fenway Park during a game and, you know, the need to eliminate a dangerous situation, traffic.
Well,
Maybe the
What-
police could weigh in on that.
Yeah, right.
why don't we vote to either approve or deny these extra streetlights, because that's on the agenda. And then we can talk about how we want to proceed with anybody else who wants to submit a claim to have an additional streetlight added.
So didn't I make a motion already?
Yes, you have a motion and a
Do we have
second.
a second?
Okay, so, all in favor?
So, all in favor of adding additional streetlights to Center Street? All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. So, did we reach a consensus on how we wanna add? No? So, do we want the light department to look at it with the resident, or do we want the resident to submit it to Denise? And then bring them in with the light department, knowing that whatever we decide the light department will do or not do?
Right, so what it's been in the past, and even prior to my arrival here, because I actually reached out to Nancy to find out what the process was someone puts it in writing to this board, you all weigh in on it, ask the light department for their opinion, and then you would vote on it. I can certainly ask the light department to weigh in on it before it comes to this board, so you have their opinion that night, that's fine. But it's always been sort of a discussion item for this board to have on their agenda and discuss. So if you want to change that, that's fine. I would just caution you.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but I'm only one.
Well, actually, when this gentleman came in on Center Street, Webster, he was looking for one, and then we asked the electric company to go out and see if there was any other areas on that street that ought to be lit up, and they did. So what's the difference, Center and Webster and Uptack Road? We could still ask them to go out and take a look at that also.
The fact they only found 2 on the entire Center Street is kind of encouraging.
Right, but the only thing I would say is, no one requested these other lights on up Center Street. We sent the light department out looking for lights that needed to be added. No one came to us and said, oh, that's a bad spot, that's a bad spot. If you want to proceed that way, that's fine. Like I said, I just would caution that if anyone comes up now and says, I need a street light, I just think there should be a process before we just say yes to everything, because it
So why
does
don't we
add
just-
up.
I agree. I mean, the board should approve or not allow this, but, I mean, if they go to the electric company and ask, and the electric company says yes or no, and then we can have the final say, but any way to streamline it, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks in between things, because it is getting darker, earlier and longer at night, so, as long as it's not, a final say by the electric company just going and doing it, and we're gonna flip the bill, then whatever the process the board wants to do, I'm fine. I mean, I'm usually around, except for a couple days a week. I can go look at anything at night. I don't mind doing it. Bill?
Police patrols, on her suggestion, might be an excellent idea. They're patrolling the streets all the time.
Well, I could ask them to weigh in on a request.
Exactly. It's kind of a
Right.
third, neutral third party.
I can do that.
Personally, I think if it becomes a safety issue, if it's a school bus or if it's a safety issue, then I think we definitely should, look at it. I think we should wait till the requests come in and then weigh the police in. If they have a situation where they know if a situation is bad, then let them weigh in on it. So look, I don't think we should make a mountain out of a molehill, and I think if we get letters in, we'll take them on an individual basis, and if you want to ask the police what they got going on.
I will just say, it's very common in communities as a cost-saving measure to shut off streetlights, because it does add up. So you'll find many communities over the last decade that have shut off every other light
Every
down a
other light.
street and things like that, because you don't realize it's adding up until you start seeing that bill increase every month. But that's something that communities have done just to cut costs. So that's the only reason I would just caution you before just saying, ask the light department to see what we need, because
And then in some communities, and I'll use Andover as one, that did shut off a lot of lights, and then they ended up getting a lot of requests, and they ended up having to turn them, some of them back on, so there was no cost savings there. Actually, they had to pay to have them put back on. That's just one, so it works both
That
ways.
sounds like good government. Put them up, take them down, put them up, take them down. So we're not,
We wouldn't do that.
So what would you like me to
We're in for
do
you.
about Uptack and Berrywood?
have them submit it for now until we come to a decision on how we want to handle it, and then they can come in, and then we'll request it from the light department.
So I don't know who that came through, Ed,
Eddie, can you have them email Denise?
I can do that.
and then I can add
It
that
may
to
be a
the
different
next.
person than come in and spoke with you.
Yeah, because I don't
where
know,
the bus stop is up there.
I don't know the other road, I just know
Well, that
it
would be
was,
better,
I
'cause
just
then
know it's
there'd be
Uptack,
More than
so.
one person about the same location.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so I will hold on that for now, and then we can put it on the next agenda if it comes in.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, would you like me to, before it comes to this board, get the light department and the police to give an opinion on it?
Yes. Yes, that way we have more information,
Okay.
please. We done with that?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. Next up, we have a one-day liquor license for the Wine and Art event at BC Park on November 4th, 2017, between the hours of 5:30 PM and 9 PM. Applicant requested to have a detailed officer waived. Why did they have?
Sorry.
This board allowed them last year to not have a detail officer, and they requested it on their application again. As like last year, they've asked that you waive that
I
requirement.
know 2 years ago, Bill Dunn and myself were up there, and this isn't a drinking crowd. This is, they're there for a different purpose. And last year, we allowed them to go without a detail officer, and they didn't have any problems up there. So they certainly, the track record, if there was ever a problem, then we could deny it. And it also, instead of paying the money to for the detail officer, it also goes to support, I was gonna say Nuns Hill, but the VZ Park.
I remember this from that time last year too, and I don't recall anything happening outside of,
So, I'd like to move for passage.
we can second, then we'll have discussion.
Okay.
Can we get a second
I'll second it.
discussion?
So I just want to state for the record, I'm not comfortable with there not being a detail at an event where there's alcohol. I think there's too much liability. I don't think there needs to be more than one detail officer, but I think in terms of, insurance issues and liability to the town, if something were to happen and there were not a detail officer there, I think that could potentially expose us to some significant liability.
This is,
I concur with such a dangerous drug as alcohol and 150 people. Alcohol is alcohol. We all know how dangerous it can be.
Yeah, Bill, you weren't on the board when this came up, right? The other time last year, were you? You must have been.
Yeah, he must have been.
I might have, but I've been educated since then.
Yeah, I don't think, is this, Mike, this is just a wine tasting thing, right? Is that what was up there last year?
And I think that when we discussed this, is it's 5:30 to 9, and it wasn't like it's gonna be an 8-hour event type thing, and so I thought we didn't feel like it was gonna be like heavy drinking or anything, that's why we,
Any idea what the cost of a detail officer is for those hours?
It's a minimum of 4, so it would be a 4.
$50 per hour for 4 hours, so
So
$200.
$200.
And you don't have to be a heavy drinker to get drunk. Some people have very, very low tolerance to alcohol. Some people have extremely high tolerance. So it's really not about the amount you consume.
Any idea how much it is for this event to,
How much
the cost to put this event on, or,
put the event on?
yeah?
Usually it's $2,000 to $3,000.
So it's $2,000 to $3,000 for the
$3,000.
total event, and then
Yes.
adding the
Those
detailed
are all
officer
the
would be another
expenses, yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
Instead of paying for the detail officer, they could use the money to help support the park.
Anybody else have any comments? So it seems like we have 2 that are moved to passage and 2 that are opposed. So what I would like to say is, I will pay for the detail officer, all right? So that way, we're covered liability-wise, and then we move it so it's a little bit less hardship on the event. So I'll pay the $200 for the detail officer. Is that fair? Is that all right with everybody?
If you're willing to do that, I'll split the fee with you.
Okay. Is that okay with everybody? I don't want to overstep my bounds here.
I'd rather spend $100 than go to a funeral.
Okay.
Cheap enough.
All right, so Selectman O'Neill and myself will split the bill at $100 each, so you can have a detail officer there and not incur that expense, okay? Can someone make a motion on that, I guess?
Well, you have a motion and a second on the,
Can I make a friendly amendment?
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I'll withdraw my second.
Bill, you want to make a motion on the new
Uh,
discussion?
I'll make a motion that we extend the license to Vanessa Lopez et al. For their wine and art event at VC Park on Saturday, November 4th, 2017, with the understanding that Selectman Wood and I will split the cost of the detailed officer that will be required at the event.
We get a second?
I'll spend your money and second that.
what did you say?
He'll
I'll
spend
your
our-
money
Oh,
and
spend
second
their
that.
All right. All those in favor? Yes.
What's the price of a life, Bill?
So just,
$100
Mike,
is
just
cheap.
let me know, and Bill know where we need to give you the cash or whatever that.
So just so you know it's approved, I have to read you the permit and add detail officer on the permit. So you can just let Vanessa know it has been approved. So you all will have to coordinate with the police department to schedule someone for that night.
I have to coordinate?
We have to?
Well, you're paying, you have to call and order a detail officer.
Mike, can you
I
call
thought
and
I
order
just
a
have to
detail
write a
officer?
check.
We'll do it.
Okay.
I didn't know I had to do some work. Wait a second, let's revote this.
Told me to be no math.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, as long as you do the scheduling, that's fine. Okay. Moving on to old business. Bill O'Neill, we'll start with you.
Sure. Bathrooms at the Pines. Have we made any progress with that at all?
I have barely seen the road commissioner for 5 minutes in the last 2 weeks. They have been out paving and getting roads ready, and this is their time to pave. So I have not seen him, heard from him.
Do you have an idea how long that particular project has been going on? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
No, I mean, the bathrooms themselves, I think those buildings, to be honest, I don't know if it was last year or the year before when they were put down there. don't know, the time sort of all melding together.
But how long ago was it approved to put the bathrooms in there? You got any idea?
It would have been
To put the bathrooms in there? It would have been 2 years ago. wouldn't it?
October of, I think, special town meeting 2015.
2015, so we're going on 3 years.
Yes.
Because at this point in time, getting into winter, the likelihood of that being finished in the winter time is slim and none, I would assume.
I don't know. I don't know what projects they have once paving is done, because really, I
Snow
don't know. what-
plowing.
But until that happens, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I can't answer that.
And the town is picking up the cost right now for the 2 porta-johns.
Yes.
And if you're paying the same thing I was, you're paying about 200 plus each
$190 a month for
Each?
both. No, for both.
for both.
I
You
got a
swung
deal.
You swung a
I
deal.
did. I went
swung a
shopping on
deal.
prices.
Okay, so the cost isn't as much, as extraordinary as I thought it would be, but it's
No.
still adding up.
Yep.
Um,
If that project, would we be stepping on someone's toes or anyone's toes if we, as a select board, took that on as a, or would you rather leave it where it is?
Well, I don't know how you would take it on without
Well-
putting it out to bid, and
Oh, it has to go out to bid?
that's why we were doing it in-house. We would buy the
Oh, all right,
parts,
okay.
have it put in.
All right.
Is it possible to ask whomever is in charge of that project to please attend a meeting
I can ask.
and explain to us what the plan is and the timeline?
I can ask. I can't guarantee attendance, but I can ask.
Right, and I'd just like to see something in writing that we've asked,
Sure.
because it's concerning to me that all this time has passed, and there doesn't seem to be an accountability piece for it being completed.
Great, brings me to the next point. Mr. Chairman, have you heard anything back from the library? Same kind of point, we're just going on and on and on.
No,
and seemingly no end in sight.
I asked the chair, I reached out to the chair with the questions that I had when he was in here maybe a month and a half ago, and I have not heard anything back.
May I at least, so I haven't heard from them. However, they reached out to the investment bank that I have our trust funds in, and they asked to open an account. And the bank would not allow it without my authorization, as Mass General Law requires. So they did move their money into Bartholomew and Company, and I am on their account.
Sweet.
So they would not let them invest. The president of the bank actually would not let them invest unless I was listed as the treasurer of the town. So their money is invested now in Bartholomew. It's only been about a month and a half, so I actually haven't even opened up the first statement. But it is now invested prudently and according with the prudent investment laws.
Sweet Jesus,
So that means
wonders
you
never
have a
cease.
say in what that money.
Well, at this point, I mean, that's why we pay the investment
Right.
company. They manage it. But I get the statements, and I will see what, interest they're making on that.
Good, that's a step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction. That's like hitting the moon. Now I know what Buzz Aldrin felt like. Old business. No, that's it. I think I'm set for today. Thank you.
Lisa?
So my one request is, I'm in receipt of the September 19th letter from the chair, and I'm also in receipt of a letter from the AG's office, and I would respectfully request that the section in the letter that references the emergency meeting piece be amended. And if that piece is amended, as far as I'm concerned, this is resolved. But I think right now, it articulates that the emergency meeting law is only for public health or severe weather conditions. And I would like to see it at least articulated that that isn't what the emergency meeting law requirements are.
So town council told us, and I have to assume that they're right because they're counseling us, that what the definition of an emergency meeting is. So
Well,
that's what we're going off of.
I hear that, but it's incorrect. And I've spoken to the AG's office, and I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I want it to be correct. And if the board is not willing to rectify it, then my next course of action is to appeal it with the AG's office, and then they can do their piece. So I would prefer that we just correct it, and it be noted that
We can have town council look at it to make sure that they're okay with it, right? Denise, is that?
Well, I don't think that town council needs to look at it. If we look at the definition that's right, I just got my email today about the open meeting law. If you read the definition of what an emergency is in the case law that I provided, that was provided by the AG's office, we don't need to incur expenses with town council. It's not difficult. I don't mean to sound, I just would like it to be correct, and I don't think we need to ask town council, because that could cost more money.
Oh, it definitely would cost more money.
And I don't think it's necessary.
So I would agree, based on the information Lisa provided at the, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before. Are you looking, Lisa, for a revised letter? Are you looking for the board to sort of make a statement about what an emergency meeting is? Is that what you're?
Either or is fine. I would just like something to be stated on the record so that people are clear that in order to have an emergency meeting, the definition is more broad than the weather and public health. So I think that I had articulated in the last meeting sort of what the definition of that is, which is basically anything that arises that sort of meets that emergency definition. And the threshold actually isn't all that high. So I would just like that to be articulated so that the board can be aware of it.
Did that say 48 hours notice as well? I didn't.
No, because that's an emergency meeting. It's really within 48 hours you can post a meeting and have an emergency meeting. So I can certainly add it to the next agenda if you'd like to have that discussion, and I guess,
So I'm not necessarily requesting a discussion. I'm just requesting that either the letter or the minutes reflect what the accurate definition is of an emergency meeting. So if the board is comfortable with that, that's what I'm asking for.
Whatever's easier. If you want to adjust the minutes or a letter.
well, the minutes, I would say, would require a vote of the board. For which meeting are you looking to?
Well, I think I articulated in the last meeting, according to that handout that I provided.
I thought it
'cause
was the meeting before.
That's why I just don't remember which meeting.
I don't think it was the last meeting. I think it was the meeting before you
Uh,
handed that out.
Well, if it was the last meeting, it would be in these minutes here.
It was the last meeting. It was under old business, I think.
Yes. Some guidance on the definition of an emergency. Okay, so,
So if we were to amend those meeting minutes, or, to modify those meeting minutes to include what that definition is, that would suffice for me.
is everyone comfortable? I mean, you haven't gotten to these minutes yet, so this is actually for next meeting. You'll vote on them. If everyone's okay, I can just add that section in there. If
Do you
that's
want to roll
anything.
call that, so?
It's up, if you want to.
Yeah.
You can make a motion to amend them for the next meeting, if you want to do that.
Anybody? Or we could roll call, I mean.
Well, you still have to make a motion. Someone has to make, if you want me to add that in, I can certainly add that in.
All right, then I'll make a motion that you add the verbiage that Lisa's talking about regarding emergency meetings to the minutes of the
October 2nd,
October 2nd,
under the
Yeah.
old business section.
under old business section.
So I think the language that I cited is that the law defines emergency as a sudden, generally unexpected occurrence or set of circumstances demanding immediate action. And that's the language that I would like added.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I'm sorry, Mike, you made that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any
Question.
further?
Just a question. Is there a difference between an emergency meeting and a special meeting? I think when we originally had discussed this, a meeting, all you need is 3 people. But there was 10 days from the time frame, so a special meeting could have been done within the, it wouldn't have to qualify under an emergency meeting. Just a special meeting called to the board, and all you need is 3 people there to conduct the business. So I'm just wondering if there's I think it probably should have been called a special meeting rather than an emergency meeting, and it could have been posted, but.
So, I don't know if you want me to answer, if you want to answer.
No, go ahead.
So, the only reason for that was in order to cancel and not lose as much money, they were looking for an answer that day. That was the only difference. So, you could have certainly had an emergency meeting within that same day if need be, but it wouldn't have constituted, a special meeting, council likes us to refer to meetings outside of your regularly normal schedule as special, just so the minutes clearly articulate what's a regular meeting and what's a special meeting. So I would say you certainly could have in those 10 days, but the business owner was looking for a more immediate answer so they wouldn't lose money if needed to cancel. That's the only reason.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a second. Any further discussion?
No, I would like to get anything we can do to get this done and over with. I want to get done and over with, all this, every meeting we're coming in and we got new, whatever you want to call it, meeting complaints, whatever. So I'm up for whatever it takes to resolve this. I'm up for getting this board moving in the right direction, so I'm up for it.
Bill and you?
I have no comments.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Is that it for old business?
No,
Bill?
yeah. So, did we ever hear back for the letter that I requested from the Pines on a progress report or anything at the Pines? Did anyone ever get back to me?
I'll be honest, I didn't send them a letter because I know we were planning to have them in at an upcoming meeting. So I didn't ask them to send a separate letter, just because they were going to be on the next, I think we have them scheduled tentatively on, it's either October 30th or November 13th. It's one of the next two meetings.
Okay, and the, I know earlier we talked, maybe we can have just a quick discussion on trying to, the Salem Street land sale. I know you were saying that we couldn't get everyone on board for a meeting, if we can try to work on that again.
Yeah, if you guys can pick dates for executive sessions, but whenever I email out, not all 5 of you can meet on the same night. So it would be up to the chair if we just schedule a meeting and not have everyone attend. I try and make sure everyone can be in attendance, especially on executive sessions. But that was the hardship, is not everybody is available on the nights that we had for meetings. So if you want to talk
How long are we
about.
anticipating that meeting to take for that
Um,
topic?
That one I don't expect to be
What,
long. I
30
think
minutes,
it's,
45 minutes?
yeah, I think it's just a matter of talking about what town council provided, and then you guys deciding what to do next.
So if we have a reasonably light agenda one night, we can have an executive session after, since we'll all be here.
Yes, correct.
Do we know when we're going to reasonably have a light session? The next one will not be.
The next one most likely will not be.
The
as
one
of
after that
As
probably
of
won't
right
be.
now, we have Mike coming back. And then I just got confirmation today that the school committee is ready with their school building presentation. So that will be at the next meeting. And then we had a few other items. I think the personnel policy discussion is on there. Recreation is on there. And I believe there was something else already on this. So next week, or next meeting probably will not be. I just don't know how far out we want to keep pushing this.
Yeah, so if
So
we can-
is there like a next Monday night, is everyone available? I shouldn't know.
No, go ahead. Okay.
Next Monday night, can anyone make it for 30 minutes next Monday night sometime? Or
I
a
can.
night next week that we all can discuss it here, or?
I
I don't know how long these people are gonna stay at, they're gonna stay at
I'm
the
not
table.
available Monday night.
Okay.
Is there the possibility of, if just doing it quickly before the meeting, like starting at 6 and meeting for a half hour?
We could. I will say, the chairman wanted to schedule, that was something I was going to send out to you all. Next meeting, October 30th, a 5:30 executive session with the fire chief to try and get those discussions underway. So we were trying to work that in as well, because again, that was another night we were trying to schedule a meeting and we couldn't get that to work. So right now, we're planning on October 30th at 5:30 for that.
Is there a night during the week that works for anyone? Like for 30 minutes, like any night during the week?
Next week?
I don't know whenever we can.
Next week, I could do Monday or Tuesday. Rest of the week, I'm in DC.
Monday, I'm not available Monday.
What about Tuesday?
Tuesday's fine.
And, well, so Thursday's Pumpkin Fest. If everyone's coming, we could meet a little earlier from Pumpkin
This
Fest.
Thursday?
Next Thursday, the 26th.
I won't be here.
Okay.
Maybe kind of.
Yeah, I'm just, so Tuesday, the 24th?
Bill?
This really should be brief.
I think Thursdays should work okay.
No, Tuesday, not Thursday.
Thursday. So
They're saying Tuesday.
Don't push Thursday, I'm not
Tuesday,
going to be here Thursday.
They're saying Tuesday, you're saying Thursday. Tuesday, the 24th.
No, no, there's
Guess
going to be,
Unless
Tuesday
you,
to
unless you
Wednesday.
meet not as a whole board for this matter. That's the struggle I have, is trying to get you all on an off night to meet.
We need to have 4 for a quorum?
3,
3.
just 3. I just don't know. I mean, I think this
We should
part
have
of
all
the,
5.
but I think this part might be an easier discussion than some of the other topics under executive session, but that's your call.
I think any executive session, the whole board should be present.
I would agree, but that's the
So
difficulty.
Tuesday's not a good night.
Bill's looking at his schedule.
the 24th is I can't make the 24th or the 25th, and then the next following Tuesday is Halloween. Forget it. I'm in divorce court if I'm here.
What about Thursday, this Thursday? Is that enough time?
This Thursday will work.
I'm not around, but you all can meet. I can give you the information, you guys can meet. I have meetings tomorrow and Wednesday here, and then Thursday I have personal plans, but
What about Friday at 5? No?
have fun.
Well, we'll just put it off until we figure something out. I just don't know how long they're gonna stay at the table waiting, that's my point. But
I mean, we'll try to make the schedules work, but it's,
I understand.
How about early? We can meet early in the morning, 7:30 before work?
yeah, 5.
That's where I draw the line.
5 a.m.?
I'll do any night.
Okay. I
Anything
was
else,
just
Bill?
trying.
No? Ed, anything?
Just one. Do we have an update on the gun range? That should be in operation by now. I think that was the target date.
Yes, and I actually got an update, but it was within, and I actually just didn't add it as correspondence, I forgot. So the chief, lieutenant, Mike Dempsey, Rosemary, the conservation agent, met with Natural Heritage out there, I think last week. There was some concerns about the turtles in the firing range area. Natural Heritage had to make some adjustments to what was being done, but they gave the blessing to the police to go ahead and start using the range. I believe so there's a fence that's going up, it's ordered, it's paid for, they pushed off installing it based on some conversations with conservation, but I think that's gonna move forward. And the Highway Department is taking some of the reclaimed material to put on the bottom of the firing range so that there's a hard surface to shoot on, and then they'll be good to go. So they do plan to start using it within the near future.
What's the near future?
I would say as soon as possible, because they need to qualify. So I don't have a specific date, but they are ready to go as soon as,
Okay.
I think they're waiting on the fence. But they are pretty much good to go.
Anything else, Ed?
That's it.
Okay, moving on to correspondence, we have the minutes from October 2nd, 2017. We have a letter from Dr. Mulqueen regarding planning workshops for the school building project.
May I stop you right there? So I actually have an amendment to that, which I just got to print. They actually changed some times to make it more available to the general public if anyone would like to attend those planning workshops. I will be putting that on our website. It is completely open to the public. I will say it is a commitment, though. There are several hours, but you would participate in interactive discussions and topics about the school project and, whether it's a high school, a middle high school,
Old combination.
combination, no combination. There's about 6 different options, renovations to one, to both, et cetera. So this really is where the public can get involved in that process. They do ask that people RSVP because they have to plan accordingly, and there will be some food
Refreshments.
provided. So I will be posting on our website all the information on that, on those planning workshops, and I'll certainly pass along to the board the information on it. Sorry, go ahead.
We have a letter from the AG's Division of Open Government regarding open meeting law complaint filed by Lisa Dubé Carpenter on September 5th, 2017. Decision from the AG's Division of Open Government regarding the open meeting law complaint filed by Ann Brody on August 21st, 2017. An invitation from David Tuttle of the American Legion for the Veterans Day service on November 11th, 2017.
Yeah, so on that, as always, they would like a member of the board to speak. So if someone is interested, you can reach out to Dave. His contact information is in that letter.
And that is being held on Saturday, November 11th?
It is being held on Veterans Day, yes.
Not another day. Okay.
Just a question, Denise. Those 2 pieces of correspondence were added later, correct?
Yes,
Did you provide a copy of them with the amended agenda?
yes.
Okay.
Yep, I got both of those today as I was going to send the final agenda, so they were sent in that attachment.
Okay.
If nobody else wants to say any words on Veterans Day, I'll do it. So, I'll be the stand-in. If somebody else wants to do it, that's fine, but if nobody else wants to say any words on Veterans Day, then I'll come up with something. Finance Director's time.
Just a few quick items. The fire department received their Class 5 license. So as of last Wednesday, I believe he said, they are now operating as a non-transport ambulance service. So they are now providing improved medical care to our residents at a quicker response time. It's basic life support, advanced life support, we still have to wait for Trinity, and if no one's available, we would have to wait. But they are now offering that service. They can administer medications if someone's stung by a bee, someone's having an allergic reaction, et cetera. So they are good to go and fully operational.
Can I ask a question about that? Does that result in us calling Trinity less, or is it the protocol still that Trinity is called in every case?
My understanding is Trinity is still called, because you don't know who's going to respond and when. So I believe the fire department is toned for medical, and then Trinity is also called. Because Trinity normally triages the calls, so I think they're on the line regardless.
Okay, thank you.
A question on that. I don't remember signing that agreement. When did we sign that? And I thought we had to do that.
Yeah, you did.
We signed it?
I thought
Yeah.
the chairman had to sign.
I had
it.
it.
Yeah, the board voted to move forward with it. No, Bill, you signed it back. It's been a while. We submitted that, they submitted that quite
did
some
sign
time ago.
So what
Where did I sign it?
Where did you sign it?
Yeah, because I
On
was.
the dotted line, but I mean, I don't recall
Actually,
you signing that.
I remember, I was going to go over to the,
Yes.
Yeah,
I was gonna go over to the fire department one night and sign it,
yeah, yeah,
and they weren't ready, and it got postponed, they were gonna get back to us, I never heard back.
last year.
Yes, because I think they sent it over here and you signed it one night. That's been signed and submitted to the state.
All
That
right.
was, it's been months. I mean, it took, and then they were requirements back and forth that they've been working with the state on other items that they were missing. So when they actually submitted their completed application, I think he told me last Monday, and because they were already 85% submitted, it
So
took
was
just
it
2
just sitting
days.
on the table over there and I signed it?
It's quite possible, but the board voted for you to sign it. It's not that you did that on your own. The board agreed to move forward with it. So you were signing at their
I
will.
don't remember.
I remember that vote, but
Can
I
you
don't
just do me
remember
a
him
favor and
actually
pull that
signing
up
it.
for me?
We just told them we weren't gonna buy him an ambulance.
I remember having all
remember
that
that, too.
conversation, but I remember they had called, they were having a party over there Christmas time, wanted me to go over, possibly could sign it or get it, to sign, what have you. Didn't happen. And then it was being delayed, they had to go through the state paperwork, et cetera. And that's where I was waiting, then I didn't become chairman, and I didn't think nothing of it, 'cause-
Yeah, I mean, maybe you didn't actually sign it. I know the board voted on it. You voted at a public meeting to move forward with Class 5.
100%
So I don't know
voted.
that, right, so I don't know that there was anything you needed to sign. To be honest, I don't remember.
Oh, maybe I didn't need to sign it, but I remember having the vote here.
Right, yeah, so it was
100%.
voted to move forward. I
But I thought I
honestly,
had to sign, the
thought you had
chairman
to
had to
sign
sign
it, too.
documents.
you may, I don't remember.
I
to
thought
be
that had
honest
to
with
be
you.
executed.
I thought it had to be executed.
Yeah, how
By
about
the
if we
chairman.
have that looked up? Look that up, find out the timeframe. When it was voted by the selectmen,
Yeah.
when it was signed?
That's
I
fine.
thought,
Yeah, I don't know
remember
what
voting
needed
on
to be signed.
Yeah, I
but-
remember voting on it, but I don't remember you actually executing the
Nope.
document.
Yeah, I don't know
Because
what
don't
there
think
would be to
anybody else signed
execute.
it. Well, no, it's a line for his signature. Chairman's signature.
What is?
There
The
was paperwork that
application?
was gonna come back from the state that I had to sign.
Oh,
And that's what
then-
they were gonna have it, the chairman at that time sign it.
Okay.
It wasn't ready, and basically, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I think to my knowledge, the only thing they required is they required a copy of the vote showing that the board approved it, and I know I sent that to
Right.
them. So I don't know what else there would have been to sign, and if it did, I would assume you would have signed it. The state wouldn't accept it if things were missing.
Well, we're gonna, I would like
But I'll
to
look
see
it
it.
up, yeah.
I wanna see it, because I don't remember signing it. I don't.
I don't remember you
I mean,
signing it
I know I have Alzheimer's, but I just don't remember
That's
signing
fine, I just don't recall what needed to be signed. But anyways, so continuing with fire, the fire department and the police department are conducting a public safety open house on Saturday, October 28th, from 1 PM to 4 PM. They're going to have demonstrations, information tables. The Boy Scouts will be present selling hot dogs and hamburgers. They're going to have their trucks and cars, fire extinguisher demonstrations, tours of the police and fire station to see the new dispatch, the new vehicles. In addition, they have added a food donation drive to benefit Puerto Rico and their residents. So non-perishable items can be dropped off on that day to the open house, and they are working in collaboration with the city of Lawrence to have those non-perishables delivered to Puerto Rico. So that is Saturday, October 28th.
How long has that been scheduled for?
I don't know.
You said 1 to 4, correct?
1 to 4, yes. And then lastly, just a reminder, tomorrow is the first flu clinic for those 60 and older, in this room from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then again, next Tuesday, the 24th, from 9 to 11 for residents 60 and older. Must bring your Medicare and insurance cards. And then I will remind everybody at the next meeting when the all-age flu clinics are, because they're after our next meeting. And that is all I have.
Class 5, look in the minutes of 9/6 and 10/17, 2016, and you'll see.
It's impressive.
He's an accountant.
You'll find something there.
Okay. Yeah, like I
That'll
said,
give
I
you
know it was voted, I know I had to
roundabout dates.
provide proof of the vote.
12/12 is another one.
I don't know what would have, I don't know what was gonna be signed, but I'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely discussed it, we definitely voted on it, but I don't remember signing any paperwork.
Okay, that's all I have.
Moving on to selectmen time. We'll start down this end of the table. Ed?
No, I have nothing.
Bill?
No.
Lisa? Bill?
I just want to give a great big shout out to Congressman Tim Murphy from Pennsylvania. Just another do as I say and not as I do politician. It's good for me, but not for you. Righteous gentleman has been a big pro-life candidate, and until his mistress got pregnant, then he became a very big
Pro-choice.
a pro-choice advocate. So I just want to commend the man for his morals and his integrity and his righteousness. It's an example we should all follow in America. Thank you.
Mike, can I interrupt you? I thought of one more item, I'm sorry.
No.
No, your
Paving.
time's over.
No, we're gonna,
Paving.
no, we're gonna adjourn. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, paving from Salem Street and the side roads around Lower Garden, is that Lower Gardner? Is that what that's
They've
considered?
been telling me that for a month, and I haven't seen
But
it.
we had an issue with the paving contractor, so it's happening this Friday and Saturday, the 20th and 21st.
So Pleasant Street, Park Street, Summer Street, School Street.
Yes, and Salem, the part of Salem Road that was
Okay,
reclaimed.
so this Friday and over the weekend?
Yes,
That's
Friday
when-
and Saturday.
So I gotta know to put my car somewhere else so I can get up and down the street.
Yes, once I get specifics, I will put out a call to those areas, because there's going to be an issue with on-street parking as well, so we're going to have to deal with that for some of those streets.
Okay.
So, but yes, that's, was confirmed last week that the contractor is coming out. Apparently, there was some issue that they jumped to a higher-paying job before they finished us.
Can I ask you a question about Gardner Street while we're talking about paving? Do you know if they're putting another coat on Gardner Street?
I don't know. I
Do
can
you know
find out.
why they removed the drainage basins?
That's a good
So
question.
they probably will.
Will what?
I would assume they're putting another coat if they remove the basins.
But how is the water gonna drain?
Oh, they like paved over them?
Like, the drainage basins, the grates are in people's yards, and
Yeah,
there's
they
no
take-
holes.
Once they do the binder coat usually, they'll bind over the whole road, then they come back, they cut out where the basins are, and they put the basins in, and then they do the finish coat.
Right, so they'll put them in, then they'll paint them orange so that you see, and then they'll leave that, and then they'll do a finish coat.
But they covered them first?
They used to have,
They covered them with gravel, and then they paved over.
oh, no, with the gravel, they had the, like,
can
the,
ask.
the markers.
Yeah, the markers.
No,
yeah.
they were little like, plastic
Yeah.
markers, but you know, no new pavement can go long without somebody wanting to dig it up. So
Yeah, I can find out.
It begs to be jackhammered, right?
We'll pave it, and then we gotta fix the pipe, and then we'll pave it, and then we gotta fix the pipe.
Seems like always the way.
It just seems odd that because with the last rainstorm we had, there was a river
Okay.
coming down School Street, taking a left onto Gardner Street, and then going pretty much in those first three houses' yards.
All right, I'll ask about
But it is
that.
the best that street's ever been.
Oh, it's a raceway now, yeah.
Have you ever,
Yeah,
did
Yeah,
you
it's- Mario and Steady drives on that.
did you have many complaints about the paving job on School Street and Salem Street?
I've heard a few.
Few, yeah.
On School Street?
Yep.
And Salem Street, that project.
Yeah, so the Route 97 project.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot, too.
Yep. What I've heard is some people are not happy with the way the pavement has covered their driveway. So there's a lip, about a 1-inch lip
Yep.
on the driveways now that wasn't there. To be honest, I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I don't know. They had gone back and looked at a few of them, and they had to do some issues. Now it's at the point that people are sort of calling about, you know, their trees. I think their tree should have come down, this should have moved, this should have happened. So I think they're working through all of those issues.
As far as the representative from the state, is our road commissioner in touch with them on these complaints?
To be honest, I don't know, I am, so when I get a complaint,
So-
I contact the contractor and the state and let them know.
Okay. 'Cause
I'm
they're-
assuming he is too, but,
Right.
I got a complaint about some tires that I forwarded.
I know that, the paving job, and I'm not in the paving business, but I can tell you, it is not at least up to par. There's bumps, when you leave the old pavement onto the new pavement, there's bumps. And you can see where they went back and put glue and stone dust to try and rectify it. I mean, I hope the state guy takes care of this project. And I know one gentleman has made a big plywood thing in the entrance of his business, how ripping he is about the whole project.
Oh.
So, I mean, certain areas that definitely need to be looked at, and hopefully as, us as a town, when people wanna, voice their opinion, we can get it taken care of for them. And I hope they don't leave that project till it's right. I'm sure they won't if it's state job, it's not a Groveland job, so it's a
right,
state job.
right. I mean, I can certainly either ask them to come in or
I
relay
think
your
they should come in.
concerns
I mean, I'm
to.
not speaking for the chairman, but I think they should come
Yeah,
in,
you are.
and anyone that
Yeah, you
wants
are.
to have, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I-
No, I agree. I
Any
mean,
complaints on the location of the mailboxes out there?
Not
Those
to
are gonna
me,
get
no.
absolutely destroyed when they start plowing in the wintertime.
Okay,
They're, they're in the sidewalk, you just drive up the street and you can tell it's a, they're not gonna last.
I can see some kids ride their
I-
bikes into
The-
those.
the wooden posts, look like 4x4s, but, a good heavy snowstorm will knock those over like tin soldiers.
The job is slated to be done around the 15th of October, which is come and gone, I think, almost. But we really should probably have anyone that wants to voice their opinion, we should have that contractor come in and we should have a conversation. Not the state, whoever it is, I don't know. But that way, if people have anything they want addressed, now's the time to get it addressed.
These issues that could present themselves as problems during snow plowing?
What's that?
These issues that could present themselves as problems for snow
Well,
plowing?
like I just talked about, I saw the same thing he's talking about. They put in, which I'm surprised the residents didn't complain about, they put in wooden posts into the concrete sidewalks, so as soon as the plows go by, the heavy wet snow is gonna snap the post, and they're gonna have nothing, they're gonna have a piece of wood with concrete put on it.
Yeah, that's
How they
almost,
gonna, how they
that's
gonna
almost
put a
on every
mailbox back
street.
in there? I mean, poor planning, poor.
But
I
I'm
mean,
saying that space in the road, when you're plowing that, is that
They're
gonna
gonna
be?
catch a lip
Oh,
on
you mean the
plow.
curbing?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't think so. I think they run their plow against the curb.
No,
and
no,
they-
no, where it transitions from the old
Oh,
road to the new
I'm
road.
sure it's gonna end up getting ripped. I mean, I'm not the road commissioner, but I'm saying it's gonna. I mean, if you have any kind of a gap a plow goes over, it's gonna tear it up sooner or later. I mean, if it's bad enough,
So it's gonna tear up the old road and then we're,
Guardrails, even with the
the road,
side of the
no place to
road.
put the snow, but try to get it up.
Where you gonna put the snow?
Right.
When Building Green comes up against it.
Where you gonna get rid of it? It's gonna have to keep pushing it in front of you and go on the
Any of
road.
any of the guys plowing.
Yeah,
Those
Right.
are
No place to
even
put the
with
snow.
With the granite,
Lot of-
right.
and they used to be way back.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any kind of insurance or guarantee on that work. Like, if we do run into issues like that during the winter where all the mailboxes are snapped off or people having problems with their transition areas, if there's a form to contact the state or the contractor on that.
I don't know.
I know of at least 3 people that wanna have their word on this. I know for a fact they do. So hopefully they're listening tonight and they're gonna come in or whatever, but I definitely think before the project's completed, I definitely think we should really have the contractor come in and hear anything that's going on, and hopefully they'll address it, because the contractor has got to guarantee that job, I'm sure, for at least a year. It's bonded, and it's gotta be, so hopefully it's taken care of.
we had the 3 gentlemen here during one meeting.
Yes.
Can we find where they are and see if they can get them back?
Well, that's what I said, if you'd like me to have them
Yes.
in. I just, we may have to move something from next meeting.
We'll look at the schedule.
I don't know if I can.
Doesn't
Well, it
look
shouldn't
like
take
the,
more than 15, 20 minutes.
Doesn't look like there's a proper mesh between in the middle of the road, between the east and westbound lanes, right in the middle, where they,
Yeah, it seems.
yeah, it looks, there's
One's higher
a
than
bit
the
of a
other
lip
one.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly reach out to them. Like I said, I will say, when I send them a response, I mean, Mike can attest to it. He sent me an email about tires being busted, and I sent it to the state. I got a response within minutes that they'll review it, they'll send it to the contractor and deal with it. That's what they have insurance for. So they're very responsive.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
not saying they're
certainly-
bad people.
Yeah, no, I can, but I can certainly reach out and see if they can come in and.
Sure. I think it's worth it.
Yeah, let's see.
I don't know
what
if you want to
their-
start with them. I don't know if you want to invite, I don't know how you want to do that. but-
Well, let's see what their schedule's like, and then let's look at the agenda items and see what we're looking at for the
And maybe
timeline.
once you decide
If you-
when
if
they're
they're
gonna be
gone,
on, you could do
you're not
some
gonna get 'em
posting
back.
to let people know that they're going to be.
Sure.
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn at 8:39?
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:39.
Get a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Yes.
And I need signatures from you all, I believe.